Flashback. 2,000 years later, 6.5 hours later, a few minutes later, 12 seconds later, 3:28 a.m., 3 weeks later, many months later. So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one. 6 hours later, several bad puns later.
70 years later.
Meanwhile, 6 hours later that same evening, several days later, 6 months later, 2 hours later, 4 to 6 weeks later, 1 minute, 37 seconds later, 1 debt to society later, 1 pair of pants later, 8 hours later, 298 frozen patties later, 3 hours later.
End of flashback.
Montage. Montage. 2,000 years later, 6.5 hours later, a few inches later, day 2, day 3, day 4, a few moments later, Longer than a few minutes later. 2 hours later. 3 days later. 15 minutes later. Several months later. Thousands of tears later. 16 paranoia-filled days later. 2 hours later. Much, much later. Yesterday. Many hours later. 75 years later. 2 hours later. One extremely annoying shift later. 2 very boring minutes later. 3 hours later. 1 winner later. The following day. Meanwhile, later. Just then. What follows is a brief construction montage. We hope you enjoyed. End of montage.